As much hype as anime with clean and polished drawings with vibrant palettes grab attention, there's something to be said about a show that visually dove in the complete opposite direction. The drawings were often rough, the background art covered with loose lines, the animation, it was filled with energy and dynamism time and time again, pushing the limits of what you would think is possible for a TV production. And I guess what else would you expect when you have someone as heavily involved like Yoshimichi Kameda on the show? And if you haven't heard, it's back. So this episode was very dialogue heavy, so yeah, not exactly packed with action. However, of course, this is Mob, and its animation team still wanted to flex on everyone, such as when this guy, sorry I totally forgot his name, is talking about the high school Tsubomi is going to apply to, Hayate Nakamura decides to add a bit of flair to start us off. The camera hovers above this tower made out of Tsubomi's score, a nice visual representation by the storyboarder, director, and animation director, if he wasn't already busy enough, Takahiro Hase, of how Tsubomi is in the mind of Mob, this perfect character who's just way above him. Anyways, it sways back and forth. That might seem minor, but definitely adds a bit more difficulty to Nakamura's task, because you're like changing perspectives, but it makes the movement just a tad more interesting. Then it transitions into Tsubomi leaping over it all. Of course, you've got smears, overlapping action with the clothing and hair, all the good stuff that brings looseness and realism to an animation. And then there's like a nice little step to the side and head swing. It gives character to the character. It's a very charming cut. The rest of part A is peppered with fun animation as well. You've got all the classic stuff on display. Harmony cells, crazy expressions, hatching, a lot of hatching, big old smears, and of course some paint on glass animation by Miyo Sato. Well, that's technically the second section, but may as well mention it now. Animation aside, Hase's direction and storyboard I think very much fit the definition of fun as well. The goofy gags land and the variety of perspectives in his board prevent it from feeling boring. But it's the second half of the episode where Hase flexes his creative muscles. The manga was pretty simple. Bald man comes in, bald man sits down, shows funny photo, then leaves. That's it. Hase though develops something a bit more unsettling. Like I swear I could literally smell the stench of this room. Hase brings in this very drab yellow palette. Almost felt like I was transported to GTA 4 there for a bit.
Nico, it's Roman!
There's also trash on all sides. The different perspectives help with depicting the amount of it, literally towering over the client in certain shots. And slowly there's this like claustrophobic feel building. A lot of the shots are extreme close-ups. It feels grimy and uncomfortable, especially when zooming in on something like these decrepit teeth. The lighting choice for the room also complements that closed-off feeling. The only source of light is through the front window, so everything else is blocked out in darkness. Certainly takes me back to Shinji's room actually in the first season, although I would say a little more disturbing again. Then some time goes by and a lip monster appears from the man. Everyone goes Betty buys, and Sato gives us a brief cut, and like, what can I say, the medium she uses fits perfectly for scenes like this. Although my personal favorite bit of animation of this section is by another Sato, Toshiyuki Sato, as Reagan displays his new special attack, double hydrogen water mist. Now, I have to say I am one happy boy to see Sato back, besides having a part in the Mob vs Koyama fight, which was just incredible, and many other great moments on the show like Masashi vs Shibata, which definitely fits under that description. He's just an excellent animator in general, whether it's his really intense effects work or bombastic movements, or on the complete opposite end, very subtle and lifelike character acting. His work is filled with life, and I guess it's no surprise he's literally been brought onto some of the biggest titles: Attack on Titan, One Punch Man, Jujutsu Kaisen, Darling in the Franxx, Pokemon. Like, I swear this man's been on everything. Like, look at these credits. Now at this point, after such a build-up, you might expect some animation that really evokes emotion. It's actually just a comedy scene, but man, do I love it. It takes me back to Kameda's bit in episode 1, which I guess it's kind of to be expected considering their animation style is heavily influenced by the Kaneda school. And Sato seems to really like using thick inky lines as well. But that aside, the expressions are strong, much the same with the poses. The quick camera work certainly adds to the dynamism, but the snapping makes the cut all that bit more over the top and intense. which works great for the gag. Then for the finale, it's Koki Fujimoto. When it comes to effects, this man just like takes it up another level. They can be so erratic in the pattern they move while also very striking and in your face, and I would say that's definitely the case here. The scene begins with a nice camera rotation and flickering effects, then Bald Man gets hit, and like what a dense layout. There are so many objects moving here, and that's not easy to do. Like, I remember myself when I did some fan animation, there was like a bunch of tile that flicked up when the character slammed his foot on the ground. And I thought it'd be cool to have like a lot of debris and little bits of rock everywhere. You know, Shimanuki does it. It wasn't fun. So I certainly appreciate the level of detail here. And side note, found the lightning shapes to be kinda interesting. The shapes don't all narrow, but instead come to this squared off look. And even some of the smears to like mark the transition take a blocky look. Quite unique. Now, if there wasn't already enough for Fujimoto to manage, he continues on with the barrage of effects and debris, but now with 2 characters and also handling background animation. Thereafter, this smoothly transitions to the outside where Fujimoto gives us the Sakuga send-off. There's a lot of really abstract shapes for the start that wouldn't feel out of place on the Keith Haring mural. And if you didn't think he could pack any more detail in, well, he does for the final burst of effects. And I completely missed what I'm about to say at first, but the shockwave from the explosion actually breaks the wires, and like the electricity draws in one of the particle effects, which then explodes, creating sort of like a chain reaction, which then links back eventually to the main one, sending out like a big lightning strike, which is what breaks the windows. Of course, Fujimoto didn't need to put in that extra time to do all that, but I definitely appreciate the extra bit of effort. And the final point that probably 2% of people will find interesting, what caught my eye was how it burns out. He could have just had it like disappear after this frame, but the flames sort of expand suddenly, although broken apart now, before then going out. It very much feels like how a flame burns out, in how it fluctuates in shape kind of rapidly before dying. Overall, this episode was like a great way to start off. Also have to note how rare it is to see one person not only fill the animation director role, aka animation supervisor, but also do the storyboard and direct. Like in an era where episodes are stacked with animation directors and chief animation directors trying to stop an episode from falling apart, like Mappa's Zombieland Saga Revenge, which averaged out to 17 ADs per episode, or even shows such as Osamu Ranking that had a fairly stable schedule from what I know, had about 6 animation directors on average. So yeah, I guess Mob is not just a throwback in style, but also its production. On that note, it also had a fairly small amount of key and second key animators. So yeah, it's early days, but considering that the series is no stranger to having a good schedule, yes, a rare phrase to use on this channel, and especially considering this episode from what I know was finished quite some time ago, it's highly likely this is another feature that will remain consistent for this season. But with that though, wraps up the video. Also go check out our channel sponsor Fandom Eon for some anime merch, helps out the channel, and use this link for a discount. And with that, thank you for watching, shout out to my patrons of course, and I'll see you later.